Okay, Austin. So I'm now going to take you through the other part of the audition, and that is, he said, play the changes, which can mean two things. It can mean play the chord changes, what we call comping, which is short for accompaniment. So, and that's what I think he means. It can also mean take a solo over the changes. We say play the changes is soloing through the changes, the chord changes. I don't think that's what he meant, but I'll do another video and I'll talk quickly about that too. So he's asked for two keys, B flat and E flat, which is kind of interesting because Billy's Bounce is in F. Now, here's the thing. If he did say, hey, can you do F for Billy's Bounce, you'd literally just take the E flat version and you'd move everything up 2 frets and everything you do exactly the same. And I think I also sent you a version in F because that's one of the ways that I teach it. That's the most common key for a jazz blues is F. Anyway, so I'm going to take you through B flat first, and then I'll take you through E flat. Okay, so B flat is, B is 7th fret, so B flat is 6th fret, right? So there's my B flat, and my first chord is a B flat 13, which is a nice voicing for a B flat 7, right? And then we go to E flat 9, what's called the 4 chord. Let's see what I've got there. And then back to B flat 13 for 2 bars, okay? Then we're gonna go up to E flat 9 again. Then I've got E diminished, which is going to look like this. You can see that from E flat 9, I slide forward with my middle finger, and I readjust my fingers there. Okay? Then I'm going to come back to B flat 13. Okay. Now I go up to the 10th fret, G7 flat 9. The key to this one is I'm barring my first finger, and then I'm sneaking in here with finger tippy toes on both of those. It's a little bit of an awkward shape, but it's a really good sounding chord, and you use it a lot, so it's good to get used to. Okay, and then after that, the most common 2-5 combo you get on guitar, which is what I like to call the clutch chord. You've seen before, minor 7. That's C minor 7 at the 8th fret. Okay, and then F9, also at the 8th fret. Okay. And that brings us to the last section, which is the turnaround, the last 2 bars. And you'll notice I didn't give you chord shapes on that. 2 reasons I didn't give you chord shapes on that. One is that that's literally the last 4 chords you just did. You just do it twice as quickly. So you just play through the last 4 chords again. However, and you can just play those last 4 chords exactly like that. But in my experience, that's a little tricky for a student who's first approaching jazz. So I've got a trick that gets you through the first couple, and then it's kind of easier on that way out. So it's the second chord. That G7 flat 9 is a little awkward to grab and to get to quickly, and to be doing it at a fast tempo, challenging. There's a really nice trick that you can always do on this turnaround, which is after this chord, whatever shape you play there, whatever key you're in, you can take that shape and just move it forward 3 frets and play it again. And that acts as a substitute for the other chord. This is not a G7 flat 9, but this performs the same function as a G7 flat 9. It pushes you in the same direction, so that is it's what we call a tritone substitute. I'll explain that some other time, okay? But it works. So technically D flat 13 here at the 9th fret, my dot. You can't see the dots, but there's my dot, right? Okay. D flat, Asher, please. My son's trying to distract me here. And then we follow that with the clutch chord and the 9 chord. And the reason I use those 2 is that's still such a quick, easy way to play that 2-5, that's the way to go. So I go B flat 13, B flat 13 at the 9, C minor 7, F9, okay? Now, the other thing that's important to understand, wow, that was really close. Asher. Sorry about that. My son is still trying to distract me. I'm going to play through it. And sort of the first approach that you want to take rhythmically is we go back in the history of jazz, back to the swing era, the big band era. And Count Basie's guitar player, who was one of the first sort of great guitar players of jazz, was Freddie Green. And the Freddie Green style of rhythm playing is what we call 4 on the floor, meaning you're just playing 4 quarter notes per measure. You're just playing on the beat. And then you're giving an extra heavy strum on the 2nd and 4th beat. And that gives you a real traditional kind of jazz strumming sound. They're all down strums, and you want to be even, you want to be relaxed, you want to have a little extra accent, a little heavier on the second and fourth beat, okay, which can feel a little backwards at first when you start doing it. So when I'm doing this, I'm going, starts over again. E flat 13, E flat 9, B flat 13, E flat 9, E diminished 7, B flat 13, and G7 flat 9. Here's a C minor 7, F9, and the turnaround. B flat up 3 frets, C minor 7, F9. Okay? Now, in modern times, people don't play that way. So you might not want to do that the entire time. So other things that you can do. One is you can start to add eighth notes, swinging eighth notes, and it's kind of a feel thing. You know, the more you listen to it, the more you get a sense. So you're kind of throwing them and anticipating chords. So I might go start like this and establish. And you can feel me kind of throwing in the chords an eighth note early. And it's kind of a feel thing. I'm totally making it up where I do it or when I do it. There's no real pattern to it. In fact, I would kind of caution against falling into a pattern, like kind of always going. You know, a lot of beginning jazz players will do that, and that starts to sound more like a blues, like a blues band, like the blues style, not really jazz. So I think that sort of looser, still based in the 4 on the floor, but throwing in some unexpected eighth notes is kind of the way to do that. The other thing you can do is you can hold chords sometimes. And again, you know, like, and when I say modern, I mean even like 1945 on, people are not playing that straight 4 on the floor unless they're playing a really traditional style of jazz. So you can. So, you know, and mixing and matching those, I think, is a thing. So the important thing to understand is that it's all rooted in the 4 on the floor. That should sort of be this underlying thing underneath the rhythm of whatever you're doing all the time in jazz. And that was a lesson that was taught to me when I took a lesson with a guitar player that I really liked. This was when I was in my 20s. And he asked me to comp for him, and I kind of comped a blues, and I did what I told you was a sort of too bluesy of a thing. That, you know, I didn't even mean to, but I like fell into sort of doing this same blues rhythm every time. And that's what he said to me. He was like, you got to base it in the 4 on the floor. You've got to sort of feel and hear that as your home base that you're always coming back to. And so I think that's a really important thing to do. Now I'm still not giving you a lot of specifics, so it's still probably like, oh, well, what do I do? You know? And what you do is you play the 4 on the floor, you hold some, you anticipate some, but don't try to get too fancy. Make sure you've got the chords right. Remember, your job here is accompaniment. The reason you're doing 4 on the floor is you're helping to establish that beat. And you're playing the chords and you're making sure you get the chords correct because you're not the focus. The spotlight is not on you. Your job is to make the soloist sound good and to give them a nice, easy pad to solo on. Okay? I'm going to make separate videos for the other keys.